Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" And Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." It is something very near to you, already in your mouths and in your hearts. You have only to carry it out. Well, the first two readings fit together very nice and neatly. They reveal the nature of humanity. What also fits together so neatly? Mankind and his sense of purpose. There is meaning to my life. There has to be. Without that, I drift. I despair. I die. But any civilization worth its salt knows you have to have a purpose. And it is not hedonism. It cannot be. And we've known this since God bound body and soul together in Adam and Eve. And it seems so easy to forget, except it's always ringing in the hearts of men and women. I shouldn't be doing this. Oh God, help me to achieve this end. Let me face my fear. Let me fight through pain and be brave and do the right thing. Or God, keep me from this temptation. For I reach out my hand to that which is not mine. And to go further is to do harm, to murder my brother, but far worse, my very soul. There is, in a manner of speaking, nothing new to the teaching. Even the pagans could learn that. Who is the scholar of the law? He's a man who's familiar with Moses. He has a head for God, but no heart. What's he doing? He's showing off. He's testing the carpenter's son. Who are you who is unstudied? I've been to school. I've studied under the greats. I am very wise in my own estimation. And not that it matters in all of my colleagues, so you answer me this. What must I do to be saved? And I love Jesus' style. It's this beautiful twist. He says, well, you're so smart, you tell me. What's there? Prove that you're so smart. And the guy can't help but stumble into his own trap. Well, yeah, no, I'll tell you. Jesus is like, there, it's done. It's like a man sets a trap for Jesus Christ, and then Jesus Christ is like, I don't believe it's going to go off. It's like something out of Looney Tunes. You put your hand in it. Oh, okay. Boom. It's done. What else you got? And the guy's pride is hurt. And he's right where Jesus Christ wants him. Not because Jesus Christ is looking to humiliate him, but he wants him to be humbled so that he can truly begin to appreciate what really matters. And he says, well, who's my neighbor? You know, give me something. And again, oh, I love Jesus' style. He doesn't answer the question directly. He says, let me tell you a story. And he jumps into it, and he goes into it. He says, there's this guy. He's coming down from Jerusalem. He's heading to Jericho. What's Jerusalem? The high point of civilization. The chosen people's capital city. As close as you could get to God. The temple is there. And the man's going away from it on his own. And where is he going? He's going down to Jericho. Jericho was the first city the Israelites took in the conquest of the Holy Land. It was a cursed city. God says no one is to rebuild it once it's down, and should anyone rebuild it, their sons will die. And so it happens in the later ages of the kings of Israel. But what you need to know is this man is going from the highest to the lowest. And wouldn't you know it? He's not as strong as he thought he was for the journey, and he's waylaid, and he's beaten half dead. Our good Lord is always quite descriptive. He's making a point. This man is going nowhere. He's as good as dead. And the robbers take his stuff and they leave. And then note who walks by: the priest and the Levite, men whom the scholar loved to keep company with. See, Jesus Christ is always doing multiple things with his storytelling. Fancy that. God's not just so straightforward as just, be good. Be nice, always smile. Maybe life is more complicated than that. Maybe he speaks to each individual circumstance and to each individual person with all the multifacets of your life. You are not boring. You are complex. You are complicated. There is one meaning to your life that answers all the questions that your life poses. This parable is so simple. And yet, how can it unlock all of a man's life, all of a woman's life? How can Jesus Christ speak directly to one man in a crowd? For this event happened. This scholar has a name, and he is either in heaven, hell, or purgatory right now. And he speaks to all of us, and to each one individually. And he's doing so much with it. He says, these two learned men walk by. He says, and then a Samaritan comes. Nobody likes the Samaritan. And yet somehow he's traversing the road safely, just fine. And he sees this guy who's got nothing going for him. He left the safe zone. He was heading towards a bad place. And those who feel themselves righteous say, good riddance, can't be bothered. And the Samaritan has naught but pity. They're not the same people. And yet they are both men. And the Samaritan stops and he bathes him. He bathes him with wine. What is going on? Wine is a good. Wine is expensive. There is a prophecy in Genesis of the offspring of Judah washing himself with wine. Samaritan? What is this surprise? And he pours it out upon him. And he picks him up, and he puts him on his beast of burden, and he carries him to an inn, and he deputizes the man he finds inside. He says, here is my brother, you take care of him. Here. And he gives him what he needs. And he says, and if whatever reason you have to spend more, if you are stretched beyond what I've given you, I will repay you. I am coming back. I will make sure this man is fine. Who is this man to him? He should be nobody. And he's made him a member of his own family. Which of these three, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? He answered, the one who treated him with mercy. Jesus said, you go and do likewise. Neighbor to the robber's victim. That's Jesus Christ. That's God, who's taken upon himself the flesh of man, who's been disguised, and the world rejects and says, I am too smart for this God. He is so simple, I want nothing to do with him. I am complicated. I will have complicated answers to my questions, and then they come up with a calculation of nothing and say, burn it all down, kill anyone you find on the road, and take his stuff. And all they do is mimic the demons, and that's who the robbers are. Man falls from Eden, falls from grace, falls from a mountaintop with God. Why? Pride. I can manage my own way in this fallen world, and down he goes, slashed and beaten, and done. And who would have thought anything more of him? And the stranger rejected into the midst comes and finds the beaten man. He finds us. He finds the human race. He finds you and he finds me. And he pours wine on him. For in him all the fullness was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile all things for him, making peace by the blood of his cross, through him, whether those on earth or those in heaven. The priest and the Levite who pass by are but angels. They are righteous, they are pure, but it is not their business. And yet God will bind them also into mankind. And the wine poured out is his very blood. His livelihood, his expense, his life washes into the injuries to heal. This is why man can't carry out what is in his heart. This is why he can't follow through on what he says. The evil I do not wish to do, I do. The good I know I should do, I do not. And who is my neighbor? He's, shot out through his clenched teeth. I don't want to. I don't like to. I'm hurt. I got wounds myself, I got problems. I can't do this. And you see the second reading. Jesus Christ is like, you're right. You can't. You get it, but you can't follow through. You need divinity. You need grace. You need mercy. You need healing. And that only comes from outside. That comes from God. And the only way it comes is as mercy. And you wouldn't even take it, but I keep offering it. And then you get it. That's the glue between these two readings, old and new. The second reading, Paul's letter, it's the cross, it's divinity, reestablishing the link of fallen man back to God and showing you how tender he is, how crazy in love he is with someone to whom he owes nothing. He even takes of his wealth and he gives it and he deputizes somebody else. That's the church. The inn, it's protective. You're off the road. You're safe now. That was the point of an inn. And he finds somebody in there. He's like, guess what you got to do? Bought and paid for. This is my shelter. This is my boy. This is his home. We protect everyone within. And you will run dry. You will push yourself to the limit. You will burn through grace, giving it away. But I promise you, whatever you suffer, when I come back, and I am coming back, I will make it up to you. You will have enough. And more. The laborer deserves his wages, the worker his keep. And what a keep we have, the great castle of God, kingdom of heaven here on earth, Roman Catholic Church. Within it, the bread of life to nourish the sick and the wounded. The mercy of the confessional poured out like blood from his wounded side. How I stare at that crucifix in that confessional, and I know what comes from that heart which is pierced, which I gladly give. It pains me there aren't more of you. Oh, just come and be washed and be changed. Let him pour the wine of his blood upon you so that you might be changed. Let him reconcile heaven and earth. Let the angels be your servants. Let the devil take flight. You know what you have to do. Oh, we always grit it out the first time through clenched teeth. I did this. I did that. I remember my first confession after coming back from Afghanistan in a cold black box in Alaska. I remember almost gasping for breath, confessing what I had to. And then those beautiful words, I absolve you. The man had been deputized by the Samaritan, and he granted mercy. That's what it means to be a neighbor. That's what it means to fight for the sake of the name of Jesus Christ, to your dying breath. This is the inn. This is its keep. You are God's treasure. He values you so much, his blood poured out like wine to heal you, to change you, to lift you up. And so you gather, and so you worship, so you turn yourself over to him. Don't walk these mean streets alone. Jesus Christ is coming back. Don't you leave the inn until he arrives. It's getting dangerous out there. It is night. The enemy screams out, life has no meaning. All I want for you to do is keep quiet. That's always what the murderer whispers to his victim. But you have God as your Father. He sent his Son to get you. You have nothing to be afraid of. We are alive in the Spirit. There is work to be done, an award to win. It starts in your very heart and then explodes outward into your neighbor. But it is not destruction, as the enemy would preach. It is life, like a flower opening up to the light, and the pollen dispenses. And the bees come like angels to distribute more and more grace to other individual flowers, and the pollination spreads, and life goes on and is far more abundant than when it begun, and far more diverse than if we let it all just get choked by the weeds. God became man. God comes on this altar. What will you do in those few short minutes you have with him? For you are in these pews, you have these kneelers, you have these prayers, you have this time. Don't leave him. He can do far more with your time than you ever could. It is hard to imagine, but it is true, that he could give you 300 years to do good works, or offer you only 20 minutes before a tabernacle, and the one that is more valuable is the time before the tabernacle. I know which one I would take. He loves us. You know what you have to do. It's already in your hearts. Go, treat every brother and sister you meet with mercy. First, get it from him who gave mercy to you. God bless you this evening.